Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be going over phase 2 of Black Mage. If you haven't seen phase 1, my phase 1 guide, I'll link that in the description. However, small disclaimer for that one, the phase 1 guide is mainly for Adele since I optimized the burst around specific Adele skills. Luckily for phase 2 and beyond, I'm pretty sure any class can learn from these, so that's great. So, Black Mage's phase 2 is considered to be the easiest of the 4 phases, which I agree with. The only hard part about phase 2 is when multiple or all attack mechanics are stacked on top of each other, which I will attempt to go over how to deal with in this video. So, before we get started, I want to throw a quick disclaimer out there. In this video, I'm going to assume that you already know the basics of Black Mage, such as the curse system and what attacks give you each curse. If you don't, I will link a very good Black Mage guide that goes over all these mechanics. And in this video, I really just want to focus on how to efficiently dodge the mechanics and how to keep up a maximum damage uptime. With that out of the way, let's go over some prerequisites that you will need before beginning Black Mage. So, number 1, remove your pet healing. Do not let your pet heal you manually. Sometimes your pet will try to heal you when you get black cursed, and since you are already black cursed, you won't get any heal. However, your potions will still go on cooldown, and this is very bad since in Black Mage we have a 10-second potion cooldown, and since curses last for 6 seconds, instead of healing instantly when black curse is off you, sometimes you have to wait an extra 4 seconds, which could be literally detrimental to your health. So remove pet healing and just bind it to your keyboard. Secondly, bring the Warrior Link skill Invincible Belief. This Link skill is extremely integral to your survival, especially in phase 2, and especially if you don't bring auto recovery to, which I'll get to in a second. Since in phase 2 you'll be spending around 90% of the fight in Black Curse, this Link skill actually heals you through Black Curse, so it's very, very useful. So what does this Link skill do? Basically, when your health drops below 15%, it will heal back 35% of your max HP every 3 seconds for every 210 seconds. So every 210 seconds, you get a full heal if your health is low. So it's extremely good. Now, these next couple are optional, but number 3, bring auto recovery 2. Now, if you aren't as good at dodging the mechanics yet, I would also highly recommend bringing auto recovery 2 instead of Fatal Strike. This is what I used when I was first learning P2. This special node works the same way as Fatal Strike, but instead of giving you damage, it will full heal you every 30 seconds. This will also heal you through Blackers and can save your life. But once you know what you're doing, I recommend bringing Fatal Strike for damage, which is what I did in my final run. And number 4, bind Flash Jump if you can. Not all classes can bind Flash Jump. Some classes have TP, so this one's optional as well. This allows you to flash jump faster and actually traverse across the map faster. This could be very useful in P2 if you find yourself on the opposite end of an FMA and need to move quickly or dodge flame spikes quickly. This also allows you to dodge black chains faster and move a greater distance if you need to, since you don't spend the vertical air time and instead move horizontally instantly. Now, the first mechanic I want to get into is the full map attack. In this VOD, as you can see at the very beginning, I immediately turn on my battle analysis. This isn't for measuring my damage, however, this is for timing the FMA. In phase 2, an FMA happens every minute and 10 seconds. So instead of looking at the timer up top, I can simply look at the BA and expect an FMA at 110, 220, 330, 440, etc. Now, when the BA is nearing FMA time, pay attention to the Black Mage since he will tell you where to take cover. If there is a red animation played on his left hand, go to the left. If there's a purple animation on the right hand, go to the right. If both of these animations appear, stay in the middle. Now, for middle FMA, you have to be careful of Black Mage's touch damage. He ticks around 5% of your HP every second. However, by standing in these corners, you can avoid this touch damage. The area on the right seems to be a little bit bigger than the area on the left. However, I don't know why, but I really haven't tested it, but it just seems that way. This is very important since there will often be cat eyes during middle FMA, and if you're taking both the cat eyes and his touch damage, you will lose HP very, very quickly. Now, if you have Untouchable, this touch damage is negated, so you don't have to worry about it. The next mechanic I want to go over are the Black Chains. This is the most common attack in P2. You know he is summoning the chains when he does this animation with his left hand. The chains will deal 15% HP to you and give you Black Curse. When he summons the chains, he will summon them in packs of 3 or 6 and can summon them on top of each other, so you can have 2 chain patterns overlap. Now, chains are very important in phase 2 because you'll use them to manage your Black Curse uptime. Remember that black curse gives you an extra 10% final damage, so you want this curse to be on you for as long as possible and as safely as possible. Now each curse lasts for 6 seconds and is affected by server lag, so it can actually last a lot longer than 6 seconds, or it can be also slightly shorter than 6 seconds. Nexon is just weird like that. The chains are very easy to dodge since you have around like a half a second to dodge them before they strike your current position. Now the movement you'll want to master is this short hop backwards. This movement will allow you to dodge the chains while still attacking Black Mage. It involves jumping in the direction away from BM and while in the air turn to face him to attack and repeating this until you're out of your own attack range. Once this happens, jump back in to reset. And oftentimes I use my binded flash jump here since it's faster and allows me to dodge the chains. So when and where you jump in to reset actually depends on your class's attack range. Now notice the position that I reset in. This is actually very specific. Remember how in middle FMA there are corners you must stand in to avoid his touch damage? This is for the same reason. I basically reset to that corner to give myself the maximum distance to jump backwards if I have to and not take touch damage. Now until you get more practice in knowing when rollings are coming, I wouldn't venture to the left to dodge the chains. Now speaking of rollings will be summoned at the top right of the map and land in the bottom left. They deal 50% of your HP and will white curse you, which is very bad, since you are very likely going to be in black curse. If you have dark sight, you can actually hit them while they're in the air to remove them, but once they touch down, you can't do this anymore. Once they touch down, they will roll across the map from the left side to the right side. Now, there are multiple ways to dodge this. The most common method is to ditch the very right and use Blink's float. However, I would only use this as like a last resort option if there's no other way to dodge it, since floating makes you susceptible to the whites that fall across the map or the fallings, and also you'll be pummeled by black chains if you're just floating there. If you have a way to traverse the map in the air to the left, I would highly recommend doing so. Also, you can actually flash jump over the rollings. Sometimes there are gaps in the rollings or not too many rollings, so you can just flash jump over them. Next are the flame spikes. Now, you may have noticed by now that flame spikes will cover certain parts of the floor. Every flame spike has a predetermined position. Each flame spike will have a charge up time of around 2.5 seconds before popping out of the ground. If you're hit by this, you are going to take 95% HP damage and get white cursed. These are the biggest culprits of double killing you with a cursed death and a real death at the same time. If you ever need to panic, running to the very left or the very right is a safe zone. However, remember that to the left it could be very bad because of the rolling, so just keep that in mind. Now, flame spikes are honestly the only difficult part about phase 2 and what changes the tide of every run. When dealing with flame spikes, you must always take a mental note of where and when they spawn. Since the spikes only deal damage at the moment they pop out from the ground, you can actually jump into them while they're technically still there after the eruption. Next, every once in a while, Black Mage will blind you. You will know when this is coming by this animation given with his right hand. This is the same animation for the chains, except it takes place on the right hand instead of the left. You need to see this animation and prepare for the blind, so you can take a snapshot of the current map environment before the blind. Now, this is really, really important to do that. Before I get into that, let me finish off with cat eyes. Every once in a while, Black Mage will summon 2 cat eyes. One will follow you, and one will bounce around this middle area like the DVD logo. Touching them will black curse you, and they will also take your health by 5% HP pretty quickly at around like half a second per tick. Now, as I said previously, when you notice the animation on his right hand, which is the blind, you need to be completely aware of every pattern that is currently happening and make the decision whether you can dodge them without seeing. For example, here, before the blind, I notice there are whites falling, and I make the decision that I can dodge them without removing the blind. And yes, you can remove the blind by using your Hero's Will. This is why I bring both the 4th job and the 5th job Hero's Will. There are times when there will be rollings, whites, spikes, and you have no choice but to use Hero's Will to remove the blind in order to deal with all the patterns. Also, another spot to use Will to remove the blind is right before FMA. If he blinds you before FMA, you won't be able to see where he tells you to go. So it's important to check when the next FMA is when you are blind, just in case. Another culprit of taking lives are rollings with spikes. When you see rollings, you have 2 options: to ditch the right and blink, or use movement to jump over them. If you are to use movement to jump over them, make sure the area beneath you has no spikes, and then attempt to deal with the rollings as fast as possible. This is so you can hit the ground as fast as possible, since dodging flame spikes in the air is nearly impossible. And if there are whites or fallings as well, if you have TP, you can TP through them, or this might be a pattern that you just have to iframe. But I would always deal with the whites first, especially if they're falling from left to right, since you can't jump through them if they're falling left to right. Now, I like to be conservative with my Hero's Will and not use it to remove blind as much as possible. For example, the blind will last for 3 seconds, while the flame spikes will erupt in 2 seconds. By knowing where the flame spikes are before the blind disappears, I will still know where to jump to be safe even while blinded. However, if there are no flame spikes on the ground before I get blinded and one spawns beneath me, I'll instantly ditch to the right, as I'll have no information if there are any more spikes around me. Alright, now how do we deal with the middle FMA? Since the side FMAs are pretty self-explanatory and there's nothing much you can do there, oftentimes cat eyes will still be floating around while BM casts FMA. If it's a side FMA, there's nothing to worry about since the cat eyes won't reach you there. However, many people die in middle FMA because they take both the BM touch damage and cat eyes touch damage. So what you have to do is constantly move between each safe spot and middle FMA. Only switch spots once the cat eyes has caught up to you. Now, one of the most important aspects of P2 and P3 is utilizing Black Curse to increase your damage, since Black Curse gives you an extra 10% FD. It is very important to keep Black Curse uptime as high as possible, and in P2 this is very easy to do. Whenever you are at least above 90% HP, or try to be above 90% HP, purposely tank one of the black chains before going into the dodge movement. Or sometimes I like to eat one tick of the cat eyes, since it does less damage than a black chain. Now, before I Black Curse myself, I always make sure I have at least 90% or full HP, just as a safety precaution, since I don't run with auto recovery. And with auto recovery, you can be a little bit more haphazard with it. For your burst, I always wait until immediately after an FMA. If you start your BA at the start of the phase, you will know exactly when FMA is coming. For example, here my entire burst is up, but I don't use it since my burst lasts for 30 seconds and I only have 20 seconds until FMA. Also, I use my burst instantly after FMA and try not to waste any time to avoid rollings interrupting my burst and roar. And speaking of roar, you should position yourself anywhere in this area here so that the roar will extend exactly over these 2 flame spikes. This is so if you're lucky, only one of them will pop up at a time and you'll be able to dodge them without having to use an iframe. Alright, now I just want to go over some moments in my VOD that I think are important, so maybe I'll just cut to different places in the VOD. So, at the beginning here, we begin the FMA, like instantly off rip. So, once the black thing starts, or after the cutscene, we start FMA. And 2 things will happen instantly when P2 begins. First, he will summon chains, and he will blind you. Now, this very first blind is nothing that you have to worry about, since flame spikes actually don't start spawning in until like 10 seconds into the run, and rollings won't spawn in for like another 50 seconds, and whites won't spawn in for a little bit. So this first blind is nothing to worry about, just play normally and just dodge the chains. So as you can see here, I'm not Black Curse yet, and I'm full HP, so what I do is I tank the first one before going into my movement. So right there, I saw that these 2 flame spikes spawned in way before this one, so I could just stand on this one and wait for these guys to pop out of the ground before I moved over. So yeah, every opportunity I get to heal myself, I will. Right here, I had a lot of HP, so I just refreshed the Black Curse instead of waiting for it to disappear. And same thing here with the flame spikes, always keep track of where they are and when they spawn. And every time you're not on Black Curse and you're around full HP, just Black Curse yourself. Here I make a mistake. I wanted to jump further, but I mistimed the flame spike here, and I ended up having to plummet to avoid getting hit by this one, and then I ended up getting hit by the one that I was standing on. So that was a mistake right there. So here rollings are about to spawn. I'm going to use movement to get over, but as you can see there are spikes, so I want to wait for this one to clear the right to left. So I forgot to mention that the one that lands on the right hand side of Black Mage will actually go to the left side. So sometimes you actually have to wait for that one to pass under you. So always be careful about that. Just because you dodge the ones that are moving to the right doesn't mean that you're clear yet, because there could be one that's coming to the left. So once that one cleared, I hit the ground as fast as possible to be ready to iframe the spike that came out of the ground here. And since I was low HP there, I didn't tank the first one, waited for the heal, and then tanked it. So that was your left FMA at 110, at exactly 110 it happened. So there's nothing you can do here, you just have to wait. And a lot of the times during FMA, he'll also blind you, and again, after FMA, the spikes won't spawn in for a little bit, so you'll be okay, even if you're blinded during FMA. And as you can see, I don't know, my eyes, like, I look fucking dead, but like, I'm staring at the HP bar is what I'm looking at. So once you see the white shield, once the shield spawns in, it's actually safe to go back in. So once I see the shield, I instantly just rush back in. But here, the FMA just disappeared. But sometimes the FMA will still be there while the shield is here, but once the shield is there, you can just go back. So this is, as you can see, it's very, very procedural. Like, I don't have blackers here, so this is where there were no chains spawning in, and I was using my 60-second mini burst. So I just jump up and just tank a tick of the cat eyes to blackers myself for that extra damage. Now since I'm blackers, I'm no longer wanting to tank anything, but unfortunately, like, I had to there to avoid flame spikes and keep up damage. Like, I obviously back here I could have just chilled in this area, but then I wouldn't be doing any damage. So I just decided to jump back in to keep doing damage, but I was also keeping track of the flame spikes, so I knew when to jump over. Now here come rolling, so I go back to the other side. So here we have rollings and whites, so I stand over here and wait for the rollings to come back a little bit this way, so when I teleport through them and dash, my dash will be able to just clear the rollings in time. So I wait, and then I TP and dash back in. Alright, here's our middle FMA, and as you can see, I wait until this thing grabs me, but also my burst is up, so I'm starting to buff up here instead of trying to dodge. So if you stand at the very safe corner here, the roar positioning will be fine. Like, it will cover the two spikes that spawn in here. As you can see, I'm pretty sure here they actually do spawn in, but they spawn in one at a time. As you can see, this one spawns in, but this one doesn't, so I have this tiny little safe space to play in. And then the other one spawns in and I'm completely okay. And then once roar is gone, just play normally. So another thing that I want to mention, since I knew that these 3 flame spikes were here before the FMA, I know for a fact that they won't spawn in because, like, there's a cooldown for the flame spikes. I'm not exactly sure how long it is, but it's definitely longer than 3 seconds. So I knew that standing in this area and playing here would be a safe option during blind, and knowing that there won't be any flame spikes to hit me. So after the blind comes in, I maneuver my way back to that area because I know flame spikes won't spawn there during my blind. Alright, again, it's middle FMA, we have cat eyes, and this time we also have whites. So I deal with the whites by simply just walking under it, and then playing the cat eyes normally, waiting for them to come over across the floor, and switching corners when I have to. And again, full heal, and then tank Black Curse. So this blind, I know right before the blind happened, hold on, let me go back a little bit. So I'm keeping track of the blind. So I see this blind is about to come in, and then I also catch a glimpse of a flame spike spawning right here. So after 2 seconds, I know that I can jump there and I'll be safe. So even though a flame spike spawns here, I know that I don't have to ditch all the way to the right because I know this one's about to come up. So that one comes up and I'm safe. so we're good. So here I'm about to get blinded and there are whites coming. Yeah, so there are whites coming and I'm about to get blinded, but here I know that there are no rollings coming for a little bit, so I can just TP through the whites. I just have to time it properly, and if you get enough practice, you'll know how long it takes for them to reach the ground. So once I get blinded here, I'm like, okay, I can pop my 60 seconds and then I TP through them, and I'm still safe. Alright, so here we have whites falling, and we have flame spikes to our left and our right, and we have a cat eye here. And as you can see, I'm not full HP. So my decision making here was, instead of trying to dodge the white by walking under it or something and then just eating a bunch of damage from the cat eye, I decide to TP through it and just hug the right wall here. So sometimes you have to make this decision. So once again here, Black Mage is about to blind me, and I know that these two flame spikes here are about to spawn in. So when I move to the safe spot here, I know for a fact that once these pop up, I can just go to that area and not have to worry about flame spikes for the rest of the blind. So this is what I do here. And then I see this message pop up, and it's FMA already, so then I have to figure out where FMA is. So it's to the left, and I use bind to flash jump to haul my ass to the right side. And then when you're here, and if you can't hit him, like, this is the perfect time to start buffing up if your FMA is off cooldown. Alright, so here I played blind really badly. Let me go back a second. I played blind actually horribly here, and I actually got hit by the flame spike. And now, since I was full HP, I didn't die, but I did get white curse. But I wanted to show you guys the ability of what you can do if you master the jump movement. So here I'm white curse, and instead of freaking out about getting black curse or using any hero's will, I know for a fact that if I just keep jumping and using the same technique, I'll make it out alive, which is exactly what I did here. I keep jumping through Black Mage even though I'm white cursed, and then I just keep carrying on with my life. Like, I didn't even care. So that's what the movement is really, really good for when black chains are there. Now, one thing I want to mention is we are nearing the end of P2. It's 15% left HP, and my burst is up. Now, depending on how long your Black Mage run is, sometimes you'll have to, if it's going to be like a 50-minute run, you're going to have to plan on when you want to use your guild skills. So my plan for my run was to use guild skills at the start of P3 and get out of P3 as fast as possible so that I have the most amount of time in P4. So in order to get out of P3 as fast as possible, if I pop G skills at the very beginning, is to go into P3 with my burst up. So instead of bursting out of P2 here and waiting for burst at the start of P3, I save my burst and just simply DPS out of phase 2. So that's exactly what I do here, and yeah, there's nothing really much else. This is a very procedural phase, and you just have to be able to do the same thing over and over and over again for the entire duration of the phase until you go to phase 3. And with that, yeah, that's all I have for phase 2, you guys. If you have any questions or comments, suggestions, leave them in the comment section down below. If you like this video, leave a like, and don't forget to subscribe for more content. Phase 3 and Phase 4 will be out soon. So, yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video, and have a great rest of your day. Peace.